Morning, everybody. As Mary Ann said, that we do approve respirators of all types that are used in occupational settings, including healthcare, and then the Occupational Safety and Health Administration and the Mine Safety and Health Administration are two agencies that have regulatory authority that require the use of those products within those specific industries or occupational settings. So next slide, please. So currently, NIOSH has issued over the course of the history where we've administered the program over 9,000 approvals. And we currently have 101 approval holders in 15 countries. And within those 101 approval holders, there's about 192 manufacturing sites in 26 countries worldwide where NIOSH approved products are manufactured, and we'll talk about the importance of that in a bit. So, we've had a huge impact in improving the quality of the nation's inventory of respiratory protection. For last year, calendar year 2019, we issued 552 decisions and completed 254 respirator approval program audit activities. So far this year, in comparison, because of the COVID-19 response, to date, since January 1st, we've issued 498 decisions and completed 538 audit activities, including the respirator assessments against other international standards and such that have been published on our website. Next slide. So we do certify or approve. We do approve many different types of respirators. So it's not just the N95 filtering face pieces that are used in healthcare settings. It's the gas masks, which can be CBR and approved combination type devices, which have both particulate and chemical and vapor protections, as well as atmosphere supplying type devices that are used in firefighting. For instance, a self-contained breathing apparatus, several types of different supplied air systems, as well as the closed circuit escape respirators, which are self-contained self-rescuers, which are typical for use in tunneling and mining operations. Next slide. So an overview of the process is that when someone's ready to submit a request for approval, they submit a package that includes the standard application form and the document package that we require, which documents the specifications of the product, the fees, and the sample hardware that are needed to do the evaluations. And I think we heard it yesterday, NIOSH does all of the evaluations, including the testing for the NIOSH approval process in-house. So we don't currently use any third-party activities or laboratories for doing those evaluations. Once all that information is received, we assign it a tracking number, and it goes into what we deem as the initial engineering review, where we confirm the reason for the application, review all the contents of the application, and verify the configurations that are either going to be approved as new or being modified as an extension. We issue the fee estimate and assign the appropriate testing. And if that all comes together and we move past that stage, it moves into a dual path where testing and quality assurance evaluations are initiated. So basically, the evaluation and test branch of NPPTL conducts all of the assigned testing and reports that information back. And for certain aspects of our program, they are an ISO 17025 approved facility. And, for, I think, at least for all the particulate air purifying type products, those STPs are within the 17025 scope. The quality assurance requirements are then evaluated against the appropriate requirements within 42 CFR. 84, and we review the inspection procedures and ensure that the classification of defects are consistent with the regulation. And we review all the drawings and such for appropriate revision levels if it is an extension of approval. And then if all comes together, it goes into the final engineering review where everything's looked at one last time, our database is updated, and we finalize the labeling and put forth a suggestion for whether the project should be approved or denied. And that product or that package to substantiate that decision is moved forward through our process for concurrence and issuance. So next slide. So we do have a very robust approval system, and we have many different workflows in that system. So this is an example of one of the workflows that of the overall process. So within each of these blocks, there are several other workflows and decision points that we make to help to maintain consistency in our decisions and our evaluations throughout the process. And we certainly do strive to treat everybody fairly and consistently, and with that to ensure that we do have conformance to the standard in doing those reviews. So next slide. So in addition to pre-approval and issuance of approval, we also do post-approval activities. So one of those areas is that we do product audits. Historically, that's up through 2016. Typically, the way that we handled product audits is we maintain a list of 40 or 50 products that we wanted to evaluate in the year for reasons such as maybe being identified as a lot of questions are being asked about the product, or we've had reports about the product, or we've had certified product investigations, and we want to ensure that those issues have been resolved. But in up through 2016, most of those products were in fact filtering face pieces. So when our regulation changed in 2015, and it gave us the opportunity to expand the product audit program, we did just that. So we come up with a decision logic based on the number of approvals that a company has. So we now choose the number of approvals that we request for each manufacturer based on the number of approvals they hold, and we disperse those over the different types of products that they have approved. And I think currently we're doing about 140 to 150 product audits a year. And I think the revised process has helped us to increase our capacity in doing these activities, as well as dispersing the types of products that we look at over the course of the year more widely. So next slide. So this is, the post-market evaluations also, include some use assessments, and specifically what you see here is for SCSRs or CCERs. We do have a regulatory authority to do some of those evaluations in terms of the requirements to maintain the approval. Next slide. So in addition to the product audit program, we also do go out and like to look at folks' ability to comply with their quality systems, as well as continue to apply with our requirements. And we do that by doing site audits. And typically those site audits are done on an interval of every 2 years at production facilities, and up to every 4 years if it's a corporate office. The duration of the audit typically is 1 or 2 days. And, we determine how long we're going to spend there on factors such as the size of the facility, the number of the approvals, language barriers, and their history with the program itself. And what this helps build our confidence with ensuring that, if everything is maintained within their quality system, that they're able to consistently produce and disseminate or distribute approved products. Typically, there are three outcomes that can happen during an audit, and those three outcomes are, it's acceptable, it's a provisionally, it's either acceptable, provisionally acceptable, or unacceptable. So, typically with an acceptable audit, there's not too much follow-up that needs to take place. With a provisionally acceptable audit, corrective actions need to be implemented, and we do, through our evaluation and test branch, follow those through to implementation and ask for effective evidence that they've addressed the problem. And sometimes the implementation of those corrective actions do in fact require the submission of a modification to approval. So that does feed back in directly to our conformity assessment program for respirators, so that we may need to evaluate the document changes associated, so that we can record them as part of the formal record as well. But at the end of the day, this is the program that helps us to stand apart from many of the other conformity assessment type activities in the world. So the quality assurance requirements seem to be, the most stringent and hard for folks to meet. So next slide. And, I thank you for the opportunity to share with Mary Ann.